trying to check the tables level as well. Hello and welcome back to The Skinny. It's the film podcast from The Skinny magazine, and all four of us are here today. It's me, Ellie, Jamie, and Anahi. Say hello, everybody, while I check if this table's level.
Hello. Why do you think the table's not level?
Every time I touch it, it makes a kind of clunking sound.
Huh.
But not in a worrying way.
I mean, can it be level but not structurally sound?
I'm sure it's fine. This is mostly just something for an intro.
Yeah, it's gold.
Yeah.
Oh, we need to inject new life into this.
People love table level banter.
Yeah, you got the thump, thump, thump. That's how you know they're listening.
You know what? It's all fine because we've got actual genuine Hollywood royalty on this episode of the podcast.
Yeah, that's true.
Thanks to Jamie Dunn. So, see if you've accidentally been like James McAvoy interview into like the Apple podcast search thing and you've come across this and you come across a Dabor man talking about a table. I'm going to make a deal with you, right? We'll put in the episode description when the James McAvoy interview is, but we'd like you to listen to at least one segment of the podcast before you get there. So handily, I'll run you through what they are now so you've got an idea of what your options are. We are going to talk about Fuze, the new one from David Mackenzie. It's about a bomb, but it's also about other things. We're going to talk about Orwell 2 + 2 = 5, which is the new Raoul Peck documentary. It's about James Orwell, but it's also James Orwell. It's about James Orwell, but it's also I'm not retaking that. It's about James Orwell, but it's also about other things. We're going to
like George Orwell,
like the famed author George Orwell. And we're also going to talk about some other things that we've been watching before we get to Jamie's chat with James McAvoy for the occasion of the release of California Schemin, a film that we wanted to review for the podcast but couldn't all get to the screening yesterday. Little peek behind the curtain. Nothing behind that curtain. just
no chaotic group chat.
No.
Ruining Ellie's life.
No, it's all good because Ellie will talk about the things that they went and saw. In fact, they'll do it right now. That's podcasting. Right, so we're going to start with what we've been watching. Mixed bag this week. Mostly positive, I think. Anna will shortly talk about dinosaurs, but first, Ellie, space.
Yeah.
They're calling it the final frontier.
They have been, yeah.
They're saying it's full of things, full of places you can go, people you can meet.
Uh-huh.
And sometimes they can even make feature films about it.
I'm so interested to see how you're going to pull that together. Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just went and saw Project Hail Mary, which is the new science fiction film with Ryan Gosling based on the book by Andy Weir, I think it is. I have not read any of Andy Weir's book, but I really liked The Martian. So obviously this is not by Ridley Scott, but I thought it'll be like the same kind of bones. And it kind of is. Like it's very much like, this one guy who is just like super resourceful, very like nerdy, very funny in these like impossible odds, MacGyvering his way to survival. But this one's more about xenobiology, like it's about his encounter with an alien life form. And I think that it's a really cool, interesting script where clearly like a lot of thought has been put into like how we would like form some kind of communication with an alien. So if you think of like some of the weirder scenes from like Arrival with Amy Adams and stuff like that, then that's kind of like the first act of this film. But then the rest of it is just a really like sweet love story about these two guys who are completely different species, just like working together in space because they kind of have no one else. They only have each other. And yeah, like I really like that. If you like science fiction, then this is like really meaty, sciencey science fiction. The spaceship is really cool. Like the camera work is like really, really interesting, where it's obviously like this is a spaceship that has artificial gravity, but there is not strictly an up or down. Like everything could be the floor or the ceiling. So the camera always is kind of like rotating and showing us interesting angles where we can't tell quite where like the room has begun and where it just like descends into machinery. And yeah, like I think that there's another bit where like whenever he flashes back to his time on Earth where like Sandra Fuller is like giving him the mission, then these flashbacks always start upside down or at a wrong angle, and then the camera corrects itself as we kind of realize we're not in space anymore, we're back on Earth. It's just loads of little things like that. There's loads of again, it's quite funny in the way that The Martian kind of was, where you've got this character who's constantly breaking the tension, but they even like do a little comedic timing with like the silence and weightlessness of space. So because he's kind of a goof, he's like working out how the control stick of the ship works really randomly and just sort of like jabbing it a bunch. And then we cut out to like this huge spaceship in the vastness of space just going like boop, 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 just silently along. So it's like they have this awareness that like space isn't really exciting if you take away all of the explosions and lasers, but it is actually still really cool and funny. The only thing that I really felt that I kind of had a problem with, and I feel like I might be alone in this, is that I found Ryan Gosling so boring in this role. Because he is like, I think because there's this really sweet and kind of vulnerable human story at the center of it, the fact that they've got Ryan Gosling, who's meant to be this kind of like flustered nerd, who is a genius but is constantly making these jokes that don't land, you know, that's a really cool, accessible character. But casting Ryan Gosling, I mean, this guy is like, he played a plastic doll because he's just that beautiful. Like, he's an Adonis. Like, it would have been, I can't help but wonder, like, who we could have cast that would have like made him a little bit more fallible, a little bit more relatable, and really like contributed to these emotional, like even like Tom Holland or something like that, you know, like someone who's like kind of a believable dork, which I just don't really think Ryan Gosling is.
Do you think Ryan Gosling is hot?
I don't personally find him hot.
Yeah, me
He's
either.
not really my thing, but also he is like that mathematical hot.
Yeah, he's objectively hot.
Where he's got like the jaw and the hair and stuff like
yeah.
that, and he just looks great in this film. I think he looks better than he did when he was Ken. When he was in Ken, he like looked dumb because he was in these stupid costumes, but in this he's just like got these slutty little glasses. It's great, and I'm just like, yeah, I would have preferred someone a bit more human looking, to be honest, for this human focused story. But at the same time, it's a big budget film. There's pretty much one major role, so you know that they were going to have to like get a lot of star power for it. But I just think most people won't really mind either way, because it is ultimately like kind of a blockbuster. I think that like loads and loads of different demographics could really enjoy this film for different reasons. So it's fine enough that it's Ryan Gosling. And I do really like the story. Like, it kind of has stuck with me, and I've been thinking about it since, about how much I enjoyed it. Not sure that I enjoyed it as much as The Martian, but yeah, still really good.
It's interesting that you say you don't know who could play this as a more kind of everyman person, because it seemed that for a while the only solution that film studios had to this problem was called Chris Pratt.
Yeah.
And they would put Chris Pratt in any film and be like, oh, we need someone who, you know, he kind of looks shit, but also he looks like a film star. Get Chris Pratt in there. The reason I bring this up is because Jamie went to see the sequel to the Super Mario movie, the Super Mario Galaxy movie, right? And they made, those of you who don't know, Chris Pratt is Mario. Mm-hmm. He's not my Mario. Mm-mm. I didn't sign up to this. There's that meme of the two people, and it's like, but you know who didn't consent?
Me.
Yeah. I'm not happy about this, but apparently they're just carrying on with it. So Chris Pratt is Mario. That's not correct. In the new Super Mario movie, I believe one of the Safdie brothers plays like a tiny Bowser. I believe that there's some additional characters who I don't consider canon because I haven't played a Mario game since the N64. But Jamie, how did you get on with this?
He's the plumber, right?
Mario is
They
the
are
plumber.
plumbers, yeah, him and his brother are
Mario
plumbers.
and Luigi, in the Mario story, Mario and Luigi are plumbers. Mm-hmm. And Mario has to go and rescue a princess, Peach, she's called.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But she's
Using
always...
lots of tunnels.
Yeah.
Because they're plumbers.
Yes, typically using sewers and sewer-related metaphorical buildings.
That's kind of beautiful.
But also sometimes fireballs.
Yes.
We all have our strengths.
Yeah,
And
but maybe actually also Chris Pratt was a voice in the film that broke Lord and Miller, which is the Lego movie.
Yeah.
Oh.
So
Chris Pratt
another
is
connection.
Yeah, he's extremely everyman coded. Also, is he not? And this may have to get cut if it turns out to be defamatory. Is he not a mad Christian as well?
Yeah, he
he's
is.
like a
Yeah, I think he's a
caricature.
real dickhead.
Is he also married to Arnold Schwarzenegger's daughter?
He's married to a Kennedy, I think. So yeah, maybe.
A Kennedy?
Well, he's married to a Kennedy,
He's
so
quite minging.
they're in the same family.
Oh, as in Arnold Schwarzenegger is married to a Kennedy?
He's married to a Kennedy as well.
Really?
Yeah, so they're all part of the Kennedy clan.
I do want to hear what you think about Super Mario Galaxy, but first, Chris Pratt was actually in a similar claustrophobic space blockbuster film in 2016 called Passengers or whatever.
yeah, with
They
Jennifer
got
Lawrence.
slated because everyone was like, he's a total creep in it. Like he like stalks a woman and brings her to life and stuff like that. But it frames it as, so yeah, not my Mario. But go on, Jamie.
He's also all over Jurassic Park these days.
He's in everything.
Yeah, he's in
lot of things.
every single blockbuster, but like in this really
He's Star-Lord.
unmemorable way.
Which is another space thing.
Yeah.
Star Wars?
Star-Lord.
Oh, Star-Lord. I think they said he's Star-Ward, which is what we call it when people appear in Star Wars.
I Star War, they Star War, she Star Ward.
I thought you thought Star Wars was about a character called Star War.
He is the Star War.
And the thing I've been reminded of this by just double checking that Chris Pratt is married to Schwarzenegger, so I'm in the clear. That Chris Pratt is simultaneously Mario and Garfield.
And he's not a good voice actor.
This to me is unacceptable.
Yeah.
I am not accepting.
Mario has a voice. It goes wahoo.
Yeah.
He's just like, hey, I'm Mario. And it's like, what is this?
Instead of it being like, let's go, it's like, I'm leaving. No, fuck you. Fuck you, Pratt.
Did you read that thing? You're not allowed to speak, by the way.
I didn't know he's had so many opinions about Mario.
That thing that actually might have been debunked on the internet, where it was saying that like, it's me, Mario, is not him saying it's me, Mario in an Italian accent, but is actually a Japanese word meaning like hello or something. It's a me.
But it also says it's me, Luigi.
Well, no, but does he say it's a me?
Well, so Charles Martinet, who is the guy who does the Mario voice, the real Mario voice, the Wahoo one, like says other things in certain games where I think like Mario 64 is like, thank you so much for playing my game. Like, I think he is just doing a silly Italian accent. But that's maybe true. That is also like
I think
a
it
word
was
for
like
hello.
one of those like rumors that then got debunked. But I remember reading it and being like, oh, so we're not actually being xenophobic. And then I think it was, no, we are.
No, we are, but it's in a different direction than you initially thought.
Yep.
Yeah, I thought you were going to be like, he's actually from the north of England. He's like, it's a me, Mario. Anyway, Jamie doesn't look very happy.
I'm never happy, but I mean, to be honest, I have very little to say about this film. I have not seen the first one, which is Super Mario Brothers the movie, which was a huge hit. I think it was the biggest film of the year. It was it 3 years ago, something like that. So this is obviously the sequel called Super Mario Galaxy Movie.
Now, Jamie, I'm just going to interrupt you again before you get going.
Yeah.
Do you have a favourite Mario game?
I mean, probably just Mario Kart would be my favourite game. It's like, is that not everybody's favourite game?
Which Mario Kart though?
I mean, the new one on the Switch.
Okay.
I don't know what. That's how deep I know.
I was just checking to see how deep this goes, because I'm a Mario Kart 64 man personally. Ellie, do you have a favourite?
The most recent one I played is Mario Kart 8, but there's one for the Switch 2 that I haven't played. I think I've maybe played the one you've played.
So Mario Kart Double Dash for the GameCube, where you control two drivers simultaneously and you can switch between them.
That sounds stressful.
It's a simple tap of a button.
Oh, okay.
It's not a very good gameplay mechanic.
So if you're just losing, you can just be someone who's winning now.
Exactly. I can be Waluigi and a second Waluigi in a different hat. Jamie, tell us more about this film.
It's basically an adventure movie where a princess goes missing, but it's not Princess Peach, and I was confused because, having not seen the first one, I assumed the princess we introduced to in the start was Princess Peach. It turns out it's Princess Rosalia, who's actually really cool, played by Brie Larson. She's actually quite badass and gets superpowers. And but she's kidnapped by Bowser Jr. Because she has Bowser Sr. locked up in a castle, but actually Peach has... Anyway, I'm getting confused about my princesses. But anyway, it's just a bit of a silly game. It's like, but it's very beautiful. I'm going to say that like it's a total kids movie, and that it's just full of non sequiturs. Doesn't quite make sense. Things happen. They find Yoshi, the dinosaur, and suddenly he's their pal without any explanation. But it looks amazing. It's actually a really gorgeous film. Really wonderful set pieces. It does a lot of fun things where it will go into actual game mode. So like there'll be for some reason Mario and Luigi have to fix the kingdom, and like while Peach is missing, and they just go and start fighting like crabs and turtles and what they call Koopas and things like that. That's very fun. Toad is very sarcastic and very annoyed all through the game, which is also quite entertaining. And I found Bowser hilarious. Bowser is played by Jack Black, who's probably the star of the show. He starts off as tiny little Bowser, and then he's bigger Bowser, and he's always trying to control his rage. So I would not recommend going to this for any particular reason other than it looks really nice. It's like like for just a big daft movie, they've put a lot of work into making it look gorgeous. So kudos to all the animators, essentially.
Nice. And see if that was really good, but see if we hadn't had all that Chris Pratt stuff at the start, that would have felt I think we did well. We rounded that out nicely.
It's a good thing we interrupted you.
Yeah. The second set of interruptions, I feel, were less necessary. But I'd got my dander up at that point. I decided it was a good idea to poke it as much as I could. Annie, do you want to talk about this 3-hour dinosaur documentary that you watched?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, because I have not seen anything else for this episode, so I should probably talk about this. I watched the Netflix documentary called The Dinosaurs over the weekend because I've had quite like bad chronic fatigue, so I've just been watching everything like in a very like childlike way, which has been quite nice. I grew up with the Walking with Dinosaurs series when I was like a kid. It was like my sick day TV. It was like that and the Teletubbies was what I would watch when I was like ill at home. And I just found that like really, I don't know, I thought it was like so cool and so comforting. So it was really nice to kind of see like a re-emergence of that kind of storytelling. I don't really have any opinions on the documentary it was fine. It was good. I liked it. I can tell you some dinosaur facts.
Let's hear them.
Okay. So
should we do 3 dinosaur facts?
You worried I'll get carried away.
In ascending order of impressiveness.
In ascending, so the most impressive first.
No, the most impressive last.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Tell us a really good fact to start with, then a less good one. And then the third one should be less impressive than that.
Okay.
Really set the mood for this podcast.
Okay, I'll start like quite factual. So like one of the things the documentary was doing, which I think I then did see that people on Reddit were annoyed about. They were like, this is setting up like a false dichotomy. So maybe it was setting up a false dichotomy. What it was talking about was how like there used to be these primitive reptiles and then the dinosaurs came. And so I was trying to figure out what is the difference between a reptile and a dinosaur. And it turns out that it's because dinosaurs support their weight on their back legs. So they kind of like walk around essentially like upright with their little like paws. Even I think the ones that do walk on all fours, the weight is still like the front paws are more like hands than feet. I looked this up at Wikipedia at like 11 p.m. So this might all be bullshit, but from what I remember, this is true. And I thought that was like really, really interesting. There was a dinosaur that was like trying to do a mating ritual and then another dinosaur ate it. That was a bummer. What else? There was like the asteroid that kills all the dinosaurs, which really was at like their peak with all of like the famous dinosaurs that we know, so like T-Rex and all of those. It just like comes and it kills
all the famous dinosaurs we know.
Yeah.
We've got all your favorites.
Yeah, and it killed all of them. It was like at that time. So just think what could have happened. And yeah, like this asteroid fell to Earth, which we were looking at before, and luckily the dinosaurs wouldn't have known it was coming because it was like moving so quickly that they would have only seen it a few seconds before it vaporized them. So that's like quite nice.
The way we described it earlier was like, imagine a shooting star, but instead of it flying across the y-axis, it's flying across the x-axis directly at you.
So anyway, the asteroid falls and it obliterates, like vaporizes everything within like thousands of miles. And then it sends up like so much ash and like fucks up like the geology of everything that then the sun is completely obliterated for a long time. And the dinosaurs all freeze to death because they're not warm-blooded, so they can't like warm themselves up. And that's how most of the dinosaurs died, apart from some of the really tiny dinosaurs that like ran into the caves and shit and like protected themselves, and they are the ancestors of what we call now birds. And then when I was on dinosaur Wikipedia, it was saying how basically there are 2 types. It was like, okay, yeah. So the dinosaurs, there is the dinosaurs that are all extinct, and then there are also the dinosaurs that are still living that are called the avian whatever, and they are just birds. So apparently in the scientific community now, it is accepted to just refer to birds as like they are still existing dinosaurs that have just evolved in like a different way. And I thought that was really interesting. And at the very end of the documentary, it shows a bunch of birds. And you are like, wow, they are really fucking weird. Mm-hmm. Like they are quite like reptilian. Yeah, I had a nice time. I did not watch any of the films, but I did watch this.
Well, that's a neat handover to the next bit of the podcast.
Do you have a favourite dinosaur?
That's such a good question, Jamie. I really like the what are they called? I think they're called sauropods, which are the ones with like the herbivore ones with the really long necks. So like a brontosaurus or like the other ones. A diplodocus, I really like those. I do really like a stegosaurus as well because I just think it's like cute that they're spiky. Except I think in the documentary, one of the T-Rexes did like eat one of the stegosaurus spikes, and that was really sad.
For the T-Rex or the stegosaurus?
Well, for the stegosaurus, because I think it didn't die, but then it still had like, it just was missing a spike.
Oh, right, okay.
I mean, I saw a seagull with 1 foot in Inverleith Park the other day.
Did it make you sad?
I was impressed it was hopping around somewhere. It's still mobile.
Yeah, they're hardy little buggers.
Getting out and getting at it. Good on it.
Yeah, that's the thing. If you're like an animal and no one can look after you, you just have to like live with this stuff, which is like really, I don't know, it's like quite sad. Anyway, so I really like those. I like the ones that fly. I did really admire the one that was trying to get off with a woman before someone ate him. I thought he was quite cool.
Not a female dinosaur.
A woman. So is that the King Kong?
Yeah, I admire him too.
Dinosaur portrayed by Chris Pratt.
Yeah.
Well, Chris Pratt famously pals with the dinosaurs, isn't he?
Yeah.
He works with
He's the dinosaur
the
whisperer.
raptors, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I don't like Chris Pratt. Let's move on to the next bit of the podcast. Jamie.
Yes.
There's a building site somewhere in London, and they've discovered something terrible. It's an unexploded World War II bomb. So what they've got to do is create a cordon around the area and get Aaron Taylor-Johnson, who is a gruff, I believe, is he supposed to be from like kind of Yorkshire, Lancashire kind of way? He's not.
I thought his accent was southern, but I could be wrong.
I mean, I don't know. He's a gruff army boy who has to come and lead a squad of people to deactivate this bomb. But actually, that's not the real story. This is my way of doing a plot synopsis for the extremely exposition-heavy David Mackenzie heist thriller Fuze, starring the aforementioned Aaron Taylor-Johnson, Gugu Mbatha-Raw, Sam Worthington, your man from The Monkey, whose name I've immediately forgotten.
Theo James.
Theo James, looks like James Franco. Unexpected Honor Swinton Byrne cameo. And yes, this film, Jamie, I pushed to watch this film partly because I didn't want to watch the black and white George Orwell documentary. I can only apologise. That's on me.
And it's not black and white.
All the stills I saw were in black and
Some
white.
clips of black and white films, I guess.
Okay. I mean, at least I got George Orwell's name right this time round. But I wanted to watch this film because I feel like we often watch arty films, serious cinema, with character development and themes and things like this. And sometimes, Jamie, it's nice to just, if you get used to eating a really healthy, balanced diet, sometimes it's nice to just put a handful of gravel in your mouth and see what happens. I felt a good way about this film. And then I watched it and I felt slightly differently. But what do you think? Because it's David Mackenzie who directed it. He's a very good director. It's got a very good cast behind it as well.
Gravel. That's a bit harsh. But
okay, do you have any advance on that? Or
I guess it's a bit flavourless. Like it's not exactly. But anyway, I think it's a bit interesting to watch David Mackenzie's career because it's all his films in the UK or in Scotland were really kind of weird and strange and indie and usually a bit sex and stuff like that, like Hallam Foe and Young Adam and Perfect Sense. So it's weird that he's went to America and he's just become this really solid, like, genre filmmaker. So, like, he's become pretty good at this. And I think the filmmaking of Fuze is pretty effective, pretty serviceable. You know, it really moves at a clip. Like, it's one of these films that just basically, for the first hour or so, is all plot. There's, like, no character development at all. It's just procedural. It's just things happening. Like we've got 3 sets of things happening. We've got the bomb disposal expert, Alan Taylor-Johnson. That's almost like we're watching a little mini Hurt Locker movie. Then we've got like a heist happening, and a kind of like a dual heist with Theo James. That's almost like we're watching a Michael Mann film. And then you've got this kind of like more kind of, you know, it's like we're watching The Bill or something. It's like some coppers are like Line of Duty, you know, some coppers are sitting around in a control room sort of trying to work out what's going on. And I think it kind of works quite well for like quite a while. I think part of the issue of the film is maybe the actors that aren't the most compelling. Like I think when you make a film like this and you don't have much dialogue, you have to have actors who are properly charismatic and can get away with just doing a line or two, and like from that you build a character. But I don't think Taylor Johnson or Theo James really has the stuff, like
Theo James makes a decision to go for it with a South African accent that is at best patchy.
Yeah, I mean
and at worst actively unconvincing. It sounds like my borderline offensive Elon Musk impression that I do occasionally at home and in the office, depending on who's in.
Yeah, it's not a great impression, but at least it's kind of fun. Like I feel like actually he seems to be quite having some fun with this, especially later on when he gets like tortured by some gangsters. But yeah, like there's just something a bit like straight laced about it. So it's like very kind of like, I think you described it as like one of those kind of Lee Child kind of like books turned into a movie.
Yeah, it's like an airport book as film.
Yeah, like John Clancy or something's written this. It's like so it's totally fine, totally serviceable. It's going to be on Sky TV. It feels like if you found this like skipping through Sky one night, you probably have a really good time. I've seen people describe it as a dad movie. This is completely a dad movie. My one issue is it's got a really weird structure. So like after, and I should have said there's lots of kind of twists and turns along the way, which I don't want to spoil, but as one of those films where like, it's quite satisfying, I think, the way it kind of all turns out. But it has this weird structure where it has this epilogue where it suddenly tries to bring in some sort of character development that just doesn't seem necessary, or it should have happened a lot earlier in the film, and it just sort of really threw me off, actually. The last sort of 10 or 15 minutes is so bizarre. And it feels like it was directed by a completely different person. I would not be surprised if, Mackenzie was forced to do this because to fill in some gaps. It was just like very strange. So
because one of the things, and we don't want to spoil this film in case you're like us, someone who generally likes kind of more arty, deliberate cinema, but likes to every so often just like stick their head in the door and see what's going on. I don't want to spoil what happens, but what I will say is there are a number of different twists and turns and all the ways that all the different plots that Jamie has described all cohere together. And then the film comes to a conclusion. And I would say, functionally speaking, the film ends. And then the film starts again with a kind of unclear, you initially think dream, but then it makes it very clear that it's a flashback that then runs for the remaining, like Jamie says, 5 or 10 minutes of the film, which like completely recontextualizes / just outright changes some of the characters' relationship with each other and with themselves.
But they've also got a completely different personality in this section as well. It's like, this is not the same guy we've been watching for an hour. So has he been acting for an hour? And like, I don't know.
And it is genuinely like, it's one of those things where it then raises more questions than it answers, because a plot point in this film is that Aaron Taylor Johnson is an army major who was in the British Army in Afghanistan, and it is repeatedly said that some of his like friends and colleagues were killed in some kind of incident in Afghanistan. And then the flashback is to a completely different incident, which doesn't really have anything to do with anything, and honestly looks like a dream. It looks like the kind of dream that you would tell yourself to justify the things that you had done in the preceding film, which is what makes it doubly strange as like a thing to put in at the end, which makes me also suspect, Jamie, and I can't say this for sure, makes me suspect that this might have been added post the initial completion of the script.
And then the film does another strange thing. After that weird epilogue, it has a title card explaining what's happened to all the characters after the incident. You know, you get like at the end of like American Graffiti, it's like he went off and did this. So we see what all the characters did after the film ended. And it's like goofy. It's like the film has been so kind of straight-laced and sort of dour, and then it just becomes like a it's like a jokey movie at the end. It just doesn't quite make any sense.
The way that you described it, Alice, it reads like the last 10 seconds of the film were directed by Guy Ritchie, but only the last 10 seconds, so it doesn't make any sense. And it's the problem with that is that, like you say, the initial thing of like the full bore sprint to establish all the characters and set up all the tension is really effective, but it's when it tries to actually tie these threads together that it kind of comes apart, because it either can't justify why people have done things, or it can't like give you an adequate explanation of how all this stuff actually kind of coheres together. And it also, and I can't really explain this part without spoiling it, so go watch the film and then find me afterwards and ask me about it, that it basically can't, it struggles to justify the behavior of some of the characters who are set up one way but are almost supposed to be like received another way. Because one of the things about doing character development throughout the film is that you give yourself a sense of what this person is actually like. Whereas if you never bother to do that, or you never get round to it, then it's hard to discern motive from someone who doesn't appear to have a character. They are just a man. They're just a man who is who for some reason is in the shower. Aaron Taylor-Johnson's in the shower at one point in this film. Yeah. That is an important piece of information to pass on.
I mean, I feel like if you've got Aaron Taylor-Johnson in your film, at least get him to take his shirt off and get his clothes
I was going to say, it's the reason he's in the shower because he's hot.
Yeah, exactly.
Essentially.
Yeah,
he could say he's covered in dust. Well, I'm sure that is the textual justification for it, but I think you've maybe correctly read between the lines on that one.
David Mackenzie is also famous for getting all his actors naked as well. Like most people appear naked at some point in his films. So I'm going to say David Mackenzie, I like this kind of like style though. Like I think he is a good action filmmaker. I really like Really, which we never got to talk about, which is I think a much better film, partly because it's a much better lead. And Riz Ahmed is like a much more compelling sort of lead actor. Did we talk about that? I can't remember.
Yeah, you mentioned Relay. Is Relay the more kind of like 70s style, like paranoid thriller type thing?
Yeah, it's set in the modern day, but it's definitely more kind of old school in style.
More kind of indebted to like a kind of enemy of the state type thing.
Yes, yeah. That's definitely the vibe. And I really loved Hell or High Water, which is a kind of western, but also kind of heist thriller. So I think he's talented at this kind of material. Just like this just doesn't quite tie together, I would say, but very enjoyable.
And I think as well, because it's one of these ones that's coming, it's like I think it's getting a cinema release and it's also going to be on Sky. Probably the kind of thing that you can watch with like minimal commitment. Probably the way that I would choose to approach it, with minimal commitment and maybe a couple of small beers. You'll have a fun time if you like this kind of thing.
Yeah, if you've got a dad who likes Liam Neeson movies and Michael Mann movies and things like that.
Oh no, I'm absolutely going to recommend this film to my father. and he'll have a great time. Jamie, out of 5 before we go, what did you think of that?
Perfectly solid apart from its bizarre ending, so like 3.5.
Yeah, I think it's a 3-star film. I think it's not actively bad. It does occasionally watch like it was edited 3 or 4 times to really try, like to the point where someone's like, I'm just trying to tighten it up a bit. It's like that you've just put in 3 camera cuts in one scene of a man walking from one side of a room to another. It's a bit frantic, but it does have a very good fox in it. So look out for that when you watch Fuze, which I believe is out in cinemas this Friday. Okay, George Orwell, they're telling me in my ear that the man's name is George Orwell, famed writer, poet. You know who George Orwell is. There's no point in this, but there is point in the new documentary by Raoul Peck about George Orwell and about his relationship with the modern world and also his world of the past. So this is 2 + 2 = 5, which is, I believe, narrated by Damian Lewis and is all about George Orwell. I haven't seen it, so that's why I'm being quite vague. But I think I've summed it up pretty well, Ali. What did you think of it? Possibly with more information than that preamble that I gave.
You're right about some things. Like it's a really good documentary, but I wouldn't say it's a particularly revelatory documentary. So if you sort of know the basics about George Orwell, you're not going to really learn much new information from this documentary. But it really does. It's sort of just combining these quotes that really get to the heart of Orwell's philosophy with an archive of like film and TV things that kind of like pertain to it. It is a little bit existential. Like it almost feels like I enjoyed it so much in a way that made me feel like we have really gotten desensitized to totalitarianism. Like I think comparing like current events to like, a dystopian fiction was a meme back in 2016. Like, and now it's considered like really like gaudy to say, oh, this is so Orwellian, isn't it? Because it's kind of, yeah, it is. But what this does is it really stylishly acts as kind of almost a refresher for audiences, and by audiences I mean me, of like just how on the ball Orwell was and how relevant his writing was. So it's like a really enjoyable and really watchable film. Like the use of archive is so good. Obviously, there are lots of examples of adaptations of his work. Like there's the 1984, the one with John Hurt, and some earlier ones that I don't know about. And yes, unfortunately, Peter, they are in black and white. But other than that, there's like Ken Loach films that appear. Like he did what's the one from 1995 that's like the Spanish Civil War? Like
Land and Freedom.
Yeah, and that kind of appears when it's discussing Orwell's background. There's like the Michael B. Jordan Fahrenheit 451, like a clip of that appears. Interestingly, there's the Two Ronnies class system sketch, or I Know My Place, which is like actually used really, really well. So it's like this really like, clever use of archive. It's structured really interestingly. Like each sort of third of the film is after a different tenet of Big Brother. Like the sort of like mottos of Big Brother are war is peace, freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength. So when we get into the section on like war is peace, it's unpacking things like how the Russian state discusses the invasion of Ukraine as this special peacekeeping mission, and like the language that they use to really like essentially not call a spade a spade. And then like ignorance is strength. We see lots of footage of like Donald Trump's AI generated social media posts that show him like playing cards with a bunch of black people, clearly because he's got, I don't know, something he wants to make up for. And all the while, Damian Lewis is reading out these quotes about how Orwell like is essentially just completely predicting the rise of AI and how there will be one day machines that can like write things and practically write propaganda for us. And I think there's one quote where he says like all political media is just pre-approved phrases that have been like bolted together as needed. And immediately after saying that, it's like 10, you get a montage of like 10 different Republican news networks that all are just different presenters saying the headline, "This is the greatest threat to our democracy. This is the greatest threat to our democracy," over and over again about everything. So like the points land quite heavy, and it is like, quite bleak for that reason. But it is like a sign, I think, of the film's great editing, that Orwell seems so visionary to the very specific events that happen in our time, like events that are always kind of called unprecedented, or like people can't understand how we could have gotten here. And you sort of realize there was this one guy who was pretty much predicting it very exactly, 80 years ago. One thing that I remember him saying is that like, when he's talking about his time in India, Orwell says, because of colonialism, 1 million Indians are starving. So what's the solution then? Do we just throw the empire overboard and reduce Britain to a tiny, unimportant island where we all have to work very hard? And it's like, yeah, that did happen, didn't it? And not even in the, really fun way that you're making it sound. So it is really interesting. There is a slight biographical element to it. Like it does tie in Orwell's like later life. Like most of the diary entries that we hear are from the time where he's like in hospital with tuberculosis just before he dies. And
in Scotland. In
Scotland, yeah. Like there's a great kind of like pastoralism to it. Lots of footage of Ayrshire, like near the hospital where he was staying. And yeah, so there is like a slightly personal element to it that still manages to tie in with a lot of the media we see. Like as his lungs start to fail him, by the end you get shown the footage, you hear the audio footage of like George Floyd's killing by the police due to suffocation. So it's like incredibly harrowing, but it is so effective at tying together his life from however long ago that was, like 80 years, with the last 5 years of our media landscape. So like quite a dark watch, but really, really well made. And I haven't seen any Raoul Peck documentaries up until now, but it's definitely put me in the mood to watch more.
He did the James Baldwin one, right?
Yeah, that's the one I want to see. I feel like that would be really good.
It's really good.
Yeah. Jamie, you did the interview with Raoul Peck, didn't you?
Yeah, I interviewed him quite a while now. It was back at the London Film Festival. I had a chat with him. Really interesting guy. Really like compelling chat. I thought. Like he's like fun interviewer. Very kind of open. Weirdly didn't dig in much about the film. Actually, he's much more interested just talking about politics. Yeah, so I really like him as a person. I like this film. I did think I agree that maybe if you know Orwell very well, maybe you won't get tons out of it. But maybe I don't know enough. It was quite eye opening for me. Like I feel like when you read Orwell at school, you're probably reading Animal Farm. You're probably reading 1984, and you're taught, this is Orwell talking about the Soviet Union, or he's talking about the SAS in Germany, but actually what I like about this film is it goes back and it says actually what radicalised Orwell and what kind of formed his politics was he was actually part of the British Empire Police in India and Burma. and he was part of that kind of like brutal empire regime, you know, like and he just realized like this was wrong, and this is what kind of led him on the path of becoming a journalist and becoming a writer and talking about like the injustice that he saw. I think his first or second book was Burmese Days, and that kind of set him on a path. So that's interesting, you know, like obviously, and I guess that says a lot about British schooling, that they like to shy away from the fact that he also his politics are not formed by the Soviet Union but by our own country and our politics across the world. And yeah, I think the film does a really good job of, exactly as Ellie says, just sort of showing how relevant or how prescient his writing's been throughout the years. You know, you could have just made a film about today, about Gaza, about Ukraine, but I like how Peck goes back and he kind of finds, you know, ties it into all sorts of sort of atrocities and wars that have happened, you know, from the Vietnam War to kind of things that aren't really talked about very much. So yeah, a really great documentary, and I like his filmmaking style. It's kind of very much like Adam Curtis, the way he kind of takes multimedia and kind of like combines it to sort of tell the narrative, and he uses this voiceover as like this performance from Damian Lewis, who's playing Orwell. But yeah, I think he does it in quite a sophisticated way, and I like, you know, like sometimes I can feel when I watch an Adam Curtis film, I think he's just found the funniest clips or the kind of funniest juxtapositions. You know, he kind of, you know, he likes to take from adverts and kind of like a pop culture and kind of mashes it up. It feels like more of a mashup, and actually what's important is the narrative, the narration, whereas I feel like it was a bit more kind of combined here. And also, like, yeah, as Ella said, he takes a lot of actual material that's used Orwell, so we see pretty much every version of 1984 that's ever been. There's a lot of versions of Animal Farm as well. And yeah, I thought as someone who's like read a bit of Orwell but not really dug into the kind of essays that he wrote and the kind of journalism he wrote, it was really eye-opening. And yeah, I would recommend it to anyone who's a bit of a novice, anybody who thinks George Orwell might be called John Orwell should give it a watch, even if it is in black and white.
I know he's called George Orwell, Jamie. I'm just not very good on the microphone. So yeah, this is also, I believe, out this weekend. Or is it out now, actually?
I think it's out on the 10th, I was going to say, but it could be wrong. Or maybe it is out this weekend.
It's definitely on this weekend because some places are doing, because there's so much Orwell stuff kicking about, like I know that the Film House are doing screenings of 1984 and of Orwell 2 + 2 = 5. So there might be chances to see some of the other things that Big John's been up to, as well as this new documentary that I hear is very good. How good out of 5, Jimmy?
I'd say it's really good. 4? Go 4.
4.
I would also give it a 4.
Wonderful. So that's Orwell 2 + 2 = 5, or in this case, 4. Zing. Okay, now a famed star of stage and screen. Screen small and big. James McAvoy, Scottish actor. You know him. You love him. He's now also directing films. His first one is California Schemin, which closed the Glasgow Film Festival. This is the one about the pair of guys who said they were American rappers, even though they were Scottish, and apparently got away with it for ages. And Jamie, our good friend Jamie Dunn, met up with James McAvoy in Glasgow, as well as one of the stars of the film, which...
It was Lucy Halliday.
Lucy
Plays
Halliday.
Mary.
And Mary is the only one who knows the truth.
Mary's the girlfriend of, I want to say, Syllable, who was Billy Boyd, I think his name is. Yeah, so she was like the only person who knew, and she would come down to London and sort of have to pretend that like they were American rappers, and she met them on tour rather than having went to school with them and stuff. So.
Rather than having gone to school with them in Dundee.
Yeah. She much works the kind of like moral centre of the film, saying maybe this isn't a good idea to be lying to the whole world, boys.
Yeah, and also there's maybe a chance that you won't get away with it indefinitely. Anyway, you met up with Lucy and James McAvoy in Glasgow to talk about the film. We're going to have to cut to it. So very briefly, what did you talk about?
Oh, all sorts. Partly why James McAvoy was drawn to this. He's been very vocal about how the Scottish accent is kind of looked down upon. I don't know if you remember the big argument he had with a theatre critic, complained when James McArdle did Peter Gent. I don't know if you remember, it was like maybe 5 years ago at the EIF. So it went on tour, went down to London, and he says, this is great apart from the whining Scottish accent of the actor James McAvoy.
It's fighting words.
And McAvoy went off on one, and he really just said, this is like, he does sort of see, I guess as an actor, maybe he has seen the Scottish accent be looked down upon a bit. So I think that is partly why he was drawn to this, because it's about essentially two lads who get laughed out of the hip hop scene in London because they're called the rapping proclaimers, because they feel like somebody doing hip hop in a Scottish accent is ridiculous, and then they come back and sing exactly the same songs but in an American accent and obviously get a deal. So I think that's part of what drew him to this material. But yeah, he just chatted about directing, the stress of it. I think he also talked about some of the filmmakers that have influenced him over the years. People like the Atonement director Joe Wright was a big influence. People like Danny Boyle. So yeah, he chats about a lot of things. We only had 10 minutes, so it's a very brief chat, but he's a good lad.
Nice. Have you got anything to add to that, Anna?
Yeah, I do. I once kissed a boy from Glasgow because he sounded like James McAvoy, because I think he sounds so sexy. So that's crazy to me that people don't like the accent. Was he still hot?
He was pretty hot. He does have a top knot just now, so I don't know how you feel about that. But otherwise, handsome fellow.
That's really useful information. Thank you.
This is Jamie and the top knotted James McAvoy.
So I wanted to start with, James, pretty obvious question. I'm sure you've answered it a million times today. What about this story made you want to make it your debut feature?
It was an opportunity to do something that I think is really important, which is entertain, but primarily and most importantly with characters who come from a background that I don't usually see in entertaining, you could argue, mainstream movies, as opposed to art house films that don't really get much distribution. To tell an entertaining story that had real emotional stakes underpinning it all. But yeah, when you come from a council estate, you don't usually get comedic or rom-coms, or, not that this is a rom-com, escapist films made about you. And I don't really understand why that is. When I read this, I saw two wee guys that I very much recognised from my life growing up in Drumchapel.
And there is something about the film, or a theme in the film, that you've kind of talked about as an actor as well. This idea that, the Scottish accent is not seen by the kind of establishment as like a, being worthy, so was that something else that appealed,
I think it's seen, I don't know what it is, but I do know that I've constantly, not all the time, there are people who are absolutely up for my accent in this business, but I've been asked to tone it down, turn it down. One director said to me when I was quite young, and I'm playing Macbeth at the time on TV. He was like, he did that. I might just ask you to do that sometimes. And I went, what do you mean? He went, Scottish, and put on a fucking offensive sort of mute person's voice. And I was like, you've just offended me on many, many levels, mate. But I was young and I kept my counsel and just went, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And then I've had directors just be like, I want you, just you, as you are, speaking how you speak. It's beautiful, it's brilliant. So there are people there who don't see it as different. There are people there who I think just go, that might be a financial impediment to recoupment, because there might be people in America who don't understand what you sound like. It's nothing. It's not that there's something inherently wrong with the way we sound. It's just it's a bit exotic to some ears, and therefore people go, we don't want exotic, we just want everybody to understand it so we can sell it in countries where they're not familiar with your accent. But that means that we don't get to make movies for our people, exactly, about ourselves,
I guess, Lucy, that's a good question for you as well. You're quite early in your career, and I know you've been quite lucky in the films you've made. You have kept your accent, like Blue Jean, for example, but like, have you come to terms with, like, if you need to do bigger roles, maybe you'll be asked to drop your accent or change your accent?
Well, I've now done 50-50. I've done 2 jobs Scottish and 2 jobs in different accents. So I don't know if I've necessarily had it because someone's been like, oh, we don't like the sound of your voice. I think it's genuinely just been it serves the story, or like the jobs I've done where my accent has been different, has just been the plot of the film or the plot of the show. But I've definitely experienced it in terms of interactions, like whether it be on set or whether it be in an audition room or just in some sort of like professional environment where the Scottish accent is seen as this sort of quirky thing, and it's like comical, and it's not like a serious, genuine thing to be taken seriously. It's more of like this novelty. So I've definitely experienced that, and I've had no matter how clear you speak, someone's not understanding you, and it's like genuinely baffling to me, because I'm like, we're literally speaking the same language.
I sometimes find when you try to speak clearer for somebody who's having obvious issues understanding yourself, it makes it worse.
Yeah.
You're like, I don't know how to win here. And it's not the responsibility of the English film industry or the American film industry or anybody else to represent more Scottish people. They're there to represent themselves and make their own money and do all that. The fact that there's not enough Scottish accents on screen to make Scottish people feel like they've been seen and heard, it's up to Scotland. It's up to the Scottish film industry. It's up to the government, maybe. Yeah. You know, it's really not Hollywood's responsibility to meet our cultural needs in Scotland.
I'm also interested when an actor turns a director, you know, so you've got decades of like working with like directors of all sorts of caliber, some very good, some not so good. I'm just wondering, is there anything specific you maybe picked up along the way? Are you a kind of actor that's kind of like pays attention? Are you on set? You know, do you start to look at what other directors have done?
I've absorbed a lot by osmosis, and I work a lot on instinct now as an actor, because so much of the technical sort of planning or prep work I've been doing for 30 years. So like a lot of it's just instinct now. But yeah, I took a couple of things from Joe Wright, particularly in practice with the crew, and Jamie Lloyd, theatre director, in practice with the actors. And I took a lot of advice from John S. Baird and James Watkins, actually, as well, who directed me in Speak No Evil, and John directed me in Filth, and he's now directing me in Meantime. And so I tried to take a lot of the enthusiasm, the boundless enthusiasm of Danny Boyle from when I worked with him. So I definitely consciously riffed off a couple of attributes that I appreciated, and a couple of moves that Joe and Jamie practiced. I definitely used those.
What was those moves? With the crew, you said, with Joe Wright and Jamie?
Joe would give the crew full access to what the scene was meant to be about, the effect he wanted it to have in the audience, really what the whole scene was going to be like, the ups and the downs of it, the twist in the scene, the atmosphere that he was trying to create, and then describe as well what shots we were going to do. And I don't really think I've worked with a director who's done that other than him, and it just welcomed the crew into the process. You don't have to do that. I've worked with brilliant directors that the crew love that don't do that, but it resonated for me as something that you should do, or I wanted to do. And then Jamie, with actors, it was almost more. I've worked with him so many times over the last 20 years. It started to become clear, and as he evolved as a director, that it was almost less important to him to get the characterization right. It was more important that the actor felt they could give of themselves freely. He was more interested in the performer than the character, and yet the story was still getting told so clearly. And I was very into that with you four, that, you know, I wanted you guys like to feel that you could give of yourselves. The character stories will be told, but the thing that I'm there for, whether it's stage, screen, or audio or whatever, is direct, pure, authentic access to that performer. And man, like, you gave that in bucket loads, mate.
Well, we could talk about that, Lucy. Like, you know, you being directed by someone who you, I guess, respect and have seen, knows a kind of like established.
I never said I respected them.
I don't believe she ever said that.
Okay, somebody who's an established actor.
Yes.
Is it easier to take a note from a director who you know is like been in your shoes, for example, or is it harder because you've got to impress them, or they know that you can't bullshit them?
Did you ever feel that you had to impress me?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Aww.
I mean, in terms of easy to take a note, I don't know if I'd necessarily say that, because like I've worked with other directors who have never been actors, and it's really easy to take notes from them as well. But I think there's definitely an essence that comes from James of everything he says is so easy to understand, because he articulates performance notes very clearly, and I do think that comes from a place of because he's an actor, and so in that sense it was easier to take them. And yeah, there was times where I remember he would give us notes, and it was almost as if he was like, giving us a little insight on how we should do the scene, and we were like, this is great, we're basically just doing a listen and repeat with James, and like it's like no,
By that,
like
you mean
and
I
it was
basically
like
gave you line readings?
if like a scene went really well, we're like, no wonder it went well, it's because we just basically did what James would do. And so there's points in this film where we're basically all just James McAvoy at a point, with a mask on. But yeah, no, he's got a real natural affinity for directing, and I really did enjoy having him direct us. But yeah, there was an element of wanting to impress him, because I mean, aside from him being the director in this job, and like I've never worked with him as an actor, I'm still aware that that's who he is. And don't get me wrong, there's times I'd forget it, that he's the same dude that's like I've watched like in films, but Arthur Christmas, Narnia. But like when I'd remember, I'd be like, oh no, like I watched him like when I was a child, he's been acting longer than I've been alive, so like there is that level of respect, and yeah, wanting to.
Don't rub it in, love. All right, I do want to work with you again, but I don't know now. Yeah, no. Look, you were the 4 actors. There's such such strong performances from all 4 of them. I was so lucky that you guys really gave yourself over to me. I do worry if I direct again and I don't work with maybe such new to the business actors. If I work with a bunch of 40-year-olds or something like that, they'll be like, you can get to. There's no chance I'm doing that. No. But you guys really went for it and went with me on it, and I'm so grateful to you for that.
Well, I got the hook that there's one question. So, well, the last question is going to be, I know you've taken this film kind of all over the world, you've been quite a few places, but this is, I think, the first screening in front of a Scottish audience. How do you anticipate that might be different? Do you see it going down differently? Do you think more jokes will be got?
I hope they'll get more. I mean, what I'm really surprised by is when we showed it in Toronto, so North American audience, North American ear, they might not get as much. And I thought, and we got loads of it. Like they got loads of laughs. The first laugh went in. I was like, yes. And then we showed it in Rome, in Zurich, and Tallinn, in Estonia. And I'm like, there's no chance. There's no chance anybody's going to be laughing. But they all laughed at it, and you're like, what? This is brilliant. So it can only get better here, I assume. I'm hoping it'll be like you'll get a stronger response. But I have screened it here. I did test it here. And the weird thing is, it was just a little bit, slightly more muted than when we were testing it in London, when I was still in the editing process. I think that might be a blip. That might be an outlier. So hopefully we get a good old raucous reception.
Well, maybe we're just harder to please,
I don't know. We're not used to seeing and hearing ourselves. So maybe it's an uncomfortable experience. Yeah. So we need to do more.
Well, what a lovely interview that was, and you could barely tell about the top knot because it was audio. Anyway, that's been the Cinny Skinny. What a time it's been. I've certainly learned a lot, and I feel like we all have. I learned about dinosaurs. I learned George Orwell's name. And I learned that I'm not alone in thinking that Chris Pratt has gone too far. So I'd like to thank Ellie.
Thank you.
Anahi.
Thank you.
And Jamie.
Just beer.
We'll be back in a couple of weeks' time, possibly with more interview stuff from GFF. Jamie has spoken to Mark Jenkin about the excellent Rose of Nevada, so there might be some of that. It might just be us. Might just be me again, misremembering people's names, banging on the table, shouting about microphone cords, all the fun stuff. It's April. The sun's out. We're having a lovely time. This has been the Cinny Skinny Podcast. Goodbye.
Bye. Bye.